So you want to really boost your English learning, like how to actually stay focused while you're studying.
Yeah, sounds familiar.
We're doing a deep dive today based on some tips from this popular English learning podcast.
Cool.
And get this, they're all about the mental game of studying, just as much as, the actual techniques.
Interesting. So, how do we train our brains to focus better?
Right. They actually compare it to planning your workouts.
Oh, I see. Like, you wouldn't just hit the gym randomly whenever, right?
Exactly. You need consistency, whether it's hitting the gym or, mastering English idioms.
Okay, so how do we apply that consistency to learning English?
Well, they say it starts with creating a study schedule, one that's specific.
To specific, okay,
So instead of just saying, I'll study sometime this week,
which we all do.
all the time, you say, I'll practice English for 20 minutes every morning before work.
Got it. So, build it into your routine.
Exactly. Or, Saturday afternoons or for English podcasts.
I like that, making it a regular thing.
Whatever works for you, the key is making it specific and sticking to it.
Makes sense. But even with a schedule, my brain still seems to have this, built-in distraction button.
Oh, tell me about it, especially when I'm trying to study.
Right. Phones, family, you name it.
And then there are those times when my own mind just wanders off.
Uh-huh. So it's not just external distractions we're battling.
Nope. Sometimes it's my own brain that's the problem. So how do we actually, minimize distractions, both the outer A and D, the inner kind?
Well, for the external ones, it starts with awareness. Figure out what your biggest culprits are and come up with a plan.
So, if my phone is constantly buzzing.
Exactly. Put it on silent, turn off notifications,
Yeah.
or even use an app blocker.
Wow, that's serious.
Drastic times, drastic measures.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're dealing with a noisy environment,
Oh, that's a tough one. I can't always escape to a quiet library.
I hear you. See if you can find a quieter corner at home or invest in some noise-canceling headphones. They can be a lifesaver.
Okay, I'm writing that down. But what about those times when it's, my own thoughts that are distracting me?
That's where mindfulness comes in. Sounds a little woo-woo, but trust me, it works.
Mindfulness, like meditation.
Exactly. Even a few minutes of meditation can help to refocus your mind.
Huh, never thought of that.
And remember, taking short breaks can actually be beneficial.
So wait, you're telling me I should be taking more breaks?
Think of it like this. Your brain needs those pauses, those little moments to process information.
Interesting. So it's not about powering through for hours and hours.
Nope. In fact, that can actually be counterproductive, like blinking. Your brain needs those micro rests to avoid strain.
Huh, it's like resetting your brain.
Exactly. A quick walk, some stretches, listening to music, even a short nap can do wonders.
I like the sound of that nap, but the key is to actually detach from studying for a few minutes, right?
Right. Let your brain recharge.
Okay, I'm starting to see the value in these breaks. So we've got scheduling, we've got chunking, we're battling distractions. What's next?
Next up, setting SMART goals.
SMART goals. What are those?
It stands for specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound.
Okay, that's a mouthful.
I know, right? But it's so much better than just vaguely saying, I want to improve my English.
Because vague goals get you vague results.
Exactly. So instead, you might say, I want to learn 10 new English idioms this week and actually use them in conversations.
Ooh, I like that. It's specific and it's actionable.
Exactly. It's like having a roadmap for your English learning journey instead of just wandering around aimlessly.
Okay, I'm definitely getting more motivated now. But I have a confession to make. My study space, well, it's not exactly inspiring. Let's just say it could use a little work.
Uh-huh. The study environment. This is actually more important than you might think.
Really? So I should probably tackle that pile of laundry before my next study session.
It couldn't hurt, because a cluttered space can lead to a cluttered mind.
I can definitely relate to that.
Right. So try to create a clean, organized space. It's like signaling to your brain that it's focus time.
Okay, so I need to declutter. What else?
Even small things like good lighting can make a difference. Or a comfortable chair.
Yeah, I've been meaning to get a better desk chair. My back is killing me.
And maybe a plant for some life. Think of it as creating your own little English learning sanctuary.
I love that idea. Okay, so we've got our space sorted. We're focused and distraction-free. But let's be real, studying can feel like a slog sometimes.
It can. And that's where rewards come in.
Rewards, like giving myself a treat after a good study session.
Exactly, because guess what? Our brains are wired to respond to rewards.
So it's not cheating if I, promise myself a piece of chocolate after I finish my English flashcards.
Not at all. Think of it as positive reinforcement. It creates this positive feedback loop that encourages you to keep studying.
Okay, that makes sense. So what kind of rewards work best?
Anything that makes you feel good. Could be a piece of chocolate, an episode of your favorite show, a walk in
Oh.
nature.
So make it personal.
Exactly. It's your brain, your reward system. And you know what? This ties into the mental game of studying even more.
Oh, how so?
Well, this podcast emphasizes that self-belief is huge and resilience.
So it's about, like, believing in myself even when English feels hard.
Yes. See those language learning challenges as stepping stones, not roadblocks. You got this.
I love that. Stepping stones, not roadblocks. I'm going to write that down. But what does that actually look like in practice, when I'm struggling with a grammar rule or something?
Imagine this. You're trying to master the present perfect tense. You get a few exercises wrong and you feel discouraged.
Been there.
Right. Instead of giving up, you remind yourself it's a process. You break it down into smaller parts, you practice consistently, and you celebrate every small win. That's resilience in action.
So it's not about being perfect. It's about having that grit to keep going even when it gets tough.
Precisely. And research even shows that people with a growth mindset, believing their abilities can be developed, they actually achieve more.
So if I believe I can improve my English, I'm more likely to actually do it.
Exactly. It becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Mm.
But what happens when, even with all of this, the breaks, the rewards, the mindset, you hit a wall? When your brain just feels fried?
Oh, all the time. What do I do then?
Simple. Recognize your limits.
Recognize my limits.
Yep, don't force it when you're truly drained. Get enough sleep, eat well, and listen to your body.
So sometimes the best thing for my English learning is to actually step away.
Sometimes, yes.
Mm-hmm.
Recharging is crucial for long-term success. It's a marathon, not a sprint.
It's making me think about those rewards in a whole new light. It's more than just, feeling good, right?
Right. Gets into some interesting brain science.
Oh, tell me more. I'm fascinated by this stuff.
Well, when we anticipate something positive, like a reward, our brains release dopamine.
Dopamine, that's the feel-good chemical, right?
Exactly. It's linked to pleasure and motivation.
So it's not just about the reward itself, but the anticipation of it.
You got it. Imagine this. You promise yourself a delicious slice of cake after a successful study session. Just thinking about that cake can make you more focused during your study time.
So it's like hacking your own brain chemistry.
In a way, yes. And the rewards don't have to be huge. Small, frequent ones can be super effective too.
Like what? Give me some examples.
Well, let's say you master a set of English flashcards. Reward yourself with a cup of your favorite tea.
Oh, I like that. A little tea break.
Or let's say you write an email in English without any major errors.
That deserves a reward for sure.
Right. So maybe you reward yourself by listening to your favorite English podcast.
I love that. It's like making learning feel less like a chore and more like something you actually enjoy.
Exactly. And speaking of making it enjoyable, we can't forget about mindset.
Mindset. We talked about that earlier, right? The whole growth mindset thing.
Right. But it's so important, it's worth revisiting. Our mindset, the way we think and feel about ourselves and our abilities, it really affects our success.
So, like, if I believe I can learn English, I'm more likely to actually do it. We kind of touched on that earlier.
Yeah. But I'm curious, how do you think our mindset affects our ability to focus and stay motivated when we're learning English?
That's a good question. I think it's about believing in yourself, like truly believing that you can do it, and also about being resilient.
Resilience, good point.
Yeah, because learning English, is tough. There are going to be times when you feel discouraged, when you want to give up.
Absolutely. It's about pushing through those tough moments and remembering why you started learning English in the first place.
So how do we cultivate that resilience? How do we keep going when we hit those inevitable roadblocks?
One thing that helps is remembering that it's a process. Learning a language, especially English, it's not a race. There will be ups and downs, moments of triumph, and moments of, well, doubt.
Oh, yeah. I've definitely had my fair share of doubt.
We all have. But it's about keeping our eyes on the prize, remembering why we started this journey.
Because ultimately, we're learning English for a reason, right? Whether it's for travel, work, or just personal enrichment.
Exactly. And sometimes that reason, that why, is what gets us through those tough moments.
I think that's such an important point, especially for English learners who are just starting out. It's easy to get caught up in the grammar rules, the vocabulary, the pronunciation, but it's about remembering why we're doing this in the first place.
It is. And when we connect with that why, it fuels our motivation. It gives us the energy to keep going even when it's hard.
So it's not just about the how of learning English, it's about the why.
Exactly. And, sometimes the why can evolve over time. Maybe you started learning English for work, but then you discover a passion for English literature, or you make new friends who speak English.
Or maybe you fall in love with the sound of the language, the way it rolls off your tongue.
Absolutely. And those new discoveries, those unexpected joys, they can become part of your why. They can keep you motivated to keep learning and exploring.
So it's like our English learning journey is constantly evolving, just like we are.
It is, and that's what makes it so exciting. It's a journey of self-discovery as much as it is a journey of language acquisition.
I love that. It's not just about learning a language, it's about learning about ourselves, about the world, and about the connections we can make through language.
Exactly. And, when we approach English language learning with that kind of openness and curiosity, it becomes less about achieving a destination and more about embracing the journey.
It's about the journey, not the destination. That's a great way to put it.
And you know what? Sometimes those detours, those unexpected twists and turns, they lead to the most rewarding discoveries.
I think that's a great place to leave it for today. We've covered so much ground in this deep dive, but there's still so much more to explore.
There is. And in our next episode, we'll delve even deeper into the mental game of English language learning. We'll talk about dealing with frustration, staying motivated, and building that unshakable self-belief that's essential for success.
Sounds fascinating. I can't wait to learn more. Until then, keep practicing, keep exploring, and keep believing in yourself.
And remember, the world of English awaits. That WHY that fuels the Hey W, that deeper purpose. It gives you the energy to keep going even when it's tough.
I love that. The WHY fuels the HOW. It's like a motivational equation. But what about the where of learning English? Does our environment really affect how well we learn?
Oh, absolutely. Environment is huge.
Really? So like if my study space is a mess, it's actually going to impact my ability to learn English.
It can, yeah. It's about creating a dedicated study space.
Dedicated study space. Okay.
It doesn't have to be fancy, but it should be a place where you can focus, where you're free from distractions.
So like no TV blaring in the background.
Exactly. And it should signal to your brain that, hey, it's focus time.
I like that. So how do we create that kind of space?
Well, think good lighting, comfortable seating,
Yeah.
maybe even some inspiring decorations.
Decorations.
Yeah, like English novels, travel posters, anything that gets you in the zone.
So it's like creating a little English learning oasis.
Exactly. A place where you can escape the chaos of everyday life and just focus on your learning.
I love that. An English learning oasis. I'm going to create one of those.
Yeah.
But what about immersion? I mean, we hear so much about the importance of immersing ourselves in English.
We do, yeah.
But what if we don't live in an English-speaking country? Are we just, out of luck?
Not at all. We live in a digitally connected world.
That's true. We've got the internet. We've got apps.
Exactly. There are so many ways to create immersion right where you are.
Like what? Give me some ideas.
Well, you can watch English movies and TV shows.
Oh, yeah, I love doing that. Well, subtitles, of course.
Of course. And listen to English music and podcasts.
Podcasts are great for learning on the go.
Right. And you can join online communities of English speakers.
There are so many great ones out there.
There are. And you know what? You can even change your phone's language settings to English.
Ooh, that's a good one. I've never thought of that.
It's a simple change, but it can make a big difference in terms of immersion.
So it's like building a little English language bubble around yourself.
Exactly. And you don't need a passport for this kind of travel.
I love that. No passport required.
Yeah.
And speaking of travel, let's talk about one of the most rewarding aspects of learning English.
What's that?
Connecting with others.
Oh, absolutely. That's what it's all about, right?
Yeah. There's nothing quite like having a conversation with someone in their native language. It's like a bridge between cultures.
It is. It's a way to connect with people on a deeper level, to understand their perspectives, and to share your own.
And it's amazing how much you can learn about a culture just by speaking their language.
So true. And you know what? Those connections, they can enrich our lives in countless ways.
They really can. And it's about more than just the language itself. It's about understanding, empathy, building bridges across borders.
I love that. Building bridges across borders.
And speaking of common ground, have you noticed that some people just seem to be, naturally good at learning languages?
I have, yeah. They pick it up so quickly.
Right. Is it just a talent? Are they born with a special language gene?
Well, some people definitely have a knack for it, that's for sure.
But I'm guessing it's not just about talent, right?
Right. It's more about qualities like curiosity
Mm-hmm.
and perseverance.
Yeah.
And a willingness to, embrace imperfection.
Embrace imperfection. Okay, so you're saying it's okay to make mistakes.
More than okay, it's essential.
Really? But I always feel so self-conscious when I mess up, Yeah, especially when I'm speaking English in front of others.
I get it. But the most successful English learners, they're not afraid to make mistakes.
They're not.
Nope. They see them as opportunities to learn. They experiment with different learning methods. They push themselves outside of their comfort zone, and they keep going, even when things get tough.
So it's not about being perfect, it's about having the right mindset.
Exactly. It's about being open to the adventure, the challenges, the inevitable stumbles along the way, and remembering that every mistake is an opportunity to learn and grow.
I like that. Every mistake is an opportunity to learn and grow. It's like a positive spin on messing up.
Exactly. And you know what? Sometimes those stumbles, they're our greatest teachers. They force us to think outside the box, to find creative solutions, and to develop a deeper understanding of the language.
Interesting. It's like the more we struggle, the more we learn.
In a way, yes. Those aha moments often come after a period of struggle.
Like when you've been wrestling with a grammar rule for ages and then suddenly it clicks.
Exactly. It's like a light bulb moment.
Oh.
And those moments, they're often the most rewarding.
They are, because you feel like you've earned it. But let's be real, speaking of struggles, one of the biggest fears I hear from English learners is the fear of sounding, well, stupid.
Oh, yeah. The fear of sounding stupid or making mistakes in front of others,
It can be so paralyzing.
it can. But it's important to remember, everyone makes mistakes when learning a new language. Everyone.
Even native English speakers.
Especially native English speakers. It's part of the process. No one starts out speaking perfect English. It's a journey, trial and error, and every mistake is just another stepping stone to fluency.
I like that. Stepping stones to fluency. It makes those mistakes seem less, scary. But how do we actually get over that fear? The fear of making mistakes in front of others.
Well, first of all, remember what we said before. Everyone does it.
Right. Even those super fluent people, they're beginners ones.
Exactly. And sometimes those mistakes lead to the most hilarious and memorable moments.
Oh, for sure. I've had some pretty funny language mishaps in my time.
We all have. So don't take yourself too seriously. Allow yourself to laugh at your own blunders.
Easier said than done sometimes. But I'm trying. What else helps?
Honestly, the best way is just to immerse yourself, surround yourself with supportive people, and practice. Practice. Practice.
Practice makes perfect, as they say.
Well, maybe not perfect, but it definitely makes progress.
That's true. The more we use English, the more confident we become, and the less those fears hold us back.
Exactly. Confidence comes with practice.
Okay, so we've talked about mistakes, we've talked about practice, but what about self-belief? Where does that fit into the equation?
Self-belief is huge EE.
Yeah,
You need to believe in yourself and your ability to learn English.
I agree. But how do you actually cultivate that self-belief, especially when you're first starting out and feeling overwhelmed?
Right. When you look at the mountain ahead and it feels impossible to climb.
Yeah, exactly. Like,
Yeah.
will I ever be able to speak English fluently? It feels so far away.
I hear you. But it's about focusing on the climb itself, enjoying the journey, celebrating those small victories along the way.
Small victories, like what?
Like maybe you learned a new phrase today, or you understood a bit more of that English podcast than you did yesterday.
Oh, yeah. Little things like that can make a big difference.
They can. It's about acknowledging those small wins, giving yourself credit for the effort you're putting in. It's focusing on the positive and silencing that inner critic that tells you you're not good enough.
The inner critic. That guy is the worst. He's always whispering doubts in my ear.
I know, right? He can be a real pain. But the good news is we can learn to quiet him down. We can choose to focus on the positive, on our progress, no matter how small.
That's a great reminder. So we need to believe in ourselves. We need to practice. We need to celebrate those small wins.
Yeah.
What else? What else helps us stay motivated and, actually make progress in our English learning?
Having a plan, a personalized plan.
A personalized English language learning plan.
Exactly, because there are so many resources out there, apps, websites, textbooks.
Oh my gosh, so many. It can be overwhelming.
It can be. That's why it's important to take a step back and think about what works best for you.
So how do we do that? How do we create a personalized English learning plan?
It starts with understanding your learning style.
Learning style.
Right.
Okay. Like, am I a visual learner, an auditory learner?
Exactly. Do you learn best by seeing things, hearing things, doing things? What motivates you? Are you more intrinsically motivated, meaning you learn for the joy of it, or extrinsically motivated, meaning you need external rewards?
Interesting. I've never really thought about that before.
And what are your goals? Do you want to learn English for travel, for work, for personal enrichment.
That's a good point. Your goals will definitely shape your approach.
Exactly. Once you have a better understanding of yourself as a learner, then you can start to explore different methods and resources. Find what resonates with you.
So it's like creating an English learning journey that is truly your own.
Yes. Tailored to your individual needs and preferences.
I love that. It's about empowering yourself to take control of your learning.
Exactly. Make it a fun and rewarding experience. And remember, it's okay to be flexible. Adjust your plan as needed along the way.
Flexible. Okay. So it's not about setting a plan in stone and never deviating from it.
Nope. Life happens. Things change.
Jobs get busy, kids get sick.
Exactly. Your English learning plan should evolve with you. Maybe you need to take a break for a while. Maybe you need to switch up your learning methods.
The key is to stay committed to your goals.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes. Even if the path to achieving them looks a little different than you initially imagined.
Right. It's about staying focused on the destination, but being flexible with the route.
And you know what? Sometimes the most rewarding language learning experiences come from those unexpected detours.
Oh, tell me about it. I've had some amazing conversations with people I met while traveling, people who spoke English as a second language. We connected on such a deep level, even though our grammar wasn't always perfect.
Exactly. It's those unexpected connections, those moments of shared humanity that make language learning so much more than just memorizing vocabulary words.
Absolutely. It's about opening ourselves up to new experiences, new cultures, new ways of seeing the world.
And speaking of new experiences, let's talk about the importance of consistency in English language learning.
Consistency. That's a big one. But it's so hard sometimes.
Yeah,
You know, life gets in the way.
it does. But consistency is key. It's not about cramming for a test or trying to learn everything at once. It's about making English language learning a regular part of your life, even if it's just for a few minutes each day.
So, like, building it into my daily routine.
Exactly. Making it a habit, not a chore.
Okay, but how do we actually do that? How do we go from, like, struggling to find time for English practice to making it an automatic part of our day?
It's about starting small,
Mhm.
setting realistic goals, creating a system of rewards and accountability.
Rewards and accountability. Okay, those sound important.
They are. And it's about being consistent, even when you don't feel like it.
Oh, that's the hard part. Sometimes I just want to curl up on the couch and watch Netflix.
I get it. We all have those days. But even on those days, try to squeeze in a little bit of English practice.
Like, even if it's just for 5 minutes.
Exactly. 5 minutes is better than no minutes. And you know what else can help? Accountability partners.
Accountability partners, like a study buddy.
Exactly. Having someone to share your language learning journey with can make a world of difference.
I can see that. It's like having a workout buddy. Someone who motivates you to get to the gym even when you don't feel like it.
Precisely. You can check in with each other regularly, share your progress and challenges, celebrate each other's wins.
That sounds fun. It's like turning English learning into a team sport.
Exactly. And speaking of team sports, did you know that learning a new language, it actually changes your brain?
Really? I knew it was good for you, but I didn't know it actually changed the physical structure of your brain.
It does. Studies have shown that bilingualism can improve cognitive function, enhance creativity, boost memory, even delay the onset of cognitive decline.
Wow. So learning English is like a workout for your brain.
It is. It challenges your brain in new ways, forces it to pay attention to new sounds, to memorize new vocabulary, to think differently about the world around you.
So it's not just about being able to speak another language.
Right. It's about improving your overall cognitive abilities. It's like cross-training for your brain.
Cross-training for your brain. I love that. It's a great analogy. And it gives me even more motivation to keep learning English.
It should. Knowing that it's not just good for your communication skills, but also for your brain health, that's a powerful motivator.
It is. And speaking of motivation, let's talk about one of the most rewarding aspects of learning English,
Okay, what's that?
the social and cultural benefits.
Oh, yes. Learning English opens doors to new cultures, new experiences, new relationships.
It does. It allows you to connect with people from all over the world, to understand their perspectives, to share your own. It's a way to break down barriers, to build bridges, and to foster cross-cultural understanding.
It's like you said before, building bridges across borders, and those bridges, they can lead to incredible adventures.
They can. And sometimes the most unexpected adventures are the most rewarding.
That's so true. And speaking of rewards, let's talk about one of the most common challenges that English language learners face, and that's, well, the fear of failure, the fear of not being good enough.
Ooh, Yeah. The fear of failure. That's a big one. I've definitely struggled with that.
It's a very common fear. But it's important to remember that failure is a part of the learning process.
But don't we learn more from our successes?
Of course we do,
Yeah.
but we also learn from our failures, our mistakes.
So how do we reframe our thinking about failure?
It's about seeing failure not as an ending, but as a beginning.
A beginning.
Yes, a beginning of a new chapter in our learning journey.
So like when we make a mistake, we should see it as an opportunity to learn something new.
Exactly. And to try again with a new perspective.
And you know what? Sometimes those failures lead to our greatest breakthroughs.
Absolutely. It's like that saying, the only way to do great work is to love the waltz out of the process. Embrace the challenges, embrace the mistakes, and you'll be amazed at what you can achieve.
I love that. Embrace the first out of the process.
Right. And remember, everyone's English learning journey is different. There's no right or wrong way to do it.
So it's about finding what works for you and being kind to yourself along the way.
Exactly. Be kind to yourself. Celebrate your successes. Learn from your mistakes. And never give up on your dream of speaking English fluently.
That's great advice. And I think it's the perfect way to wrap up this deep dive on focused studying for learning English.
I agree. And I hope our listeners feel inspired and empowered to continue on their English learning journeys.
Me too. Because learning English is more than just memorizing words and grammar rules.
It is. It's about connecting with people, exploring new cultures, and expanding our horizons.
It's about opening ourselves up to a world of possibilities.
And that's a journey worth taking.
It's about opening ourselves up to a world of possibilities. But, sometimes even with all the right tools and techniques, we can still hit a wall in our language learning. Like, we're putting in the effort, but we just don't seem to be making progress.
Oh, yeah, I've been there. It can be super frustrating, right?
It is, and it can be really demotivating.
Yeah.
So how do we deal with those moments of frustration, those times when we feel like giving up?
Well, first of all, it's important to acknowledge those feelings. It's okay to feel frustrated. Learning English is challenging. It's a complex language with all sorts of, well, quirks and inconsistencies.
That's for sure. I still struggle with those irregular verbs.
We all do. But instead of letting those feelings of frustration overwhelm you, try to reframe the situation.
Reframe the situation. Okay, how do we do that?
Well, instead of seeing those challenges as like insurmountable obstacles, see them as puzzles to be solved. See them as opportunities to learn and grow.
So it's about shifting our perspective, seeing those challenges as, well, part of the adventure.
Exactly. And sometimes a change of scenery can help too.
Like literally changing our physical environment.
Yeah. Sometimes we just need to step away from our desks, get some fresh air, and come back to our English studies with a fresh perspective.
I like that. It's like hitting the reset button on our brains.
Exactly. And speaking of hitting the reset button, let's talk about the importance of taking breaks. We touched on this earlier, but it's so crucial it's worth revisiting.
Okay, remind me why breaks are so important.
Well, when we're learning something new, especially something as complex as a new language, our brains need time to process and consolidate that information.
So it's not just about resting our bodies, it's about giving our brains a break too.
Exactly. And you know what? Sometimes the best way to learn something is to actually step away from it for a while.
So like if I'm struggling with a grammar rule, I should just walk away from the textbook for a bit.
Exactly. Go for a walk, listen to some music, do something completely unrelated to English for a while. And when you come back to it, you might be surprised at how much easier it is to understand.
It's like our brains are working on those English problems in the background, even when we're not consciously thinking about them.
Exactly. It's like that saying, sleep on it. Sometimes the best solutions come to us when we give our brains a chance to rest and recharge.
So breaks are not just about relaxation, they're actually part of the learning process.
They are. They're essential for optimal learning.
Okay, I'm definitely going to be more intentional about taking breaks from now on. But what about those times when we're feeling really discouraged? Like we've hit a plateau in our learning and we're just not seeing any progress. What do we do then?
Well, first of all, remember that plateaus are normal. Everyone experiences them at some point in their English learning journey. It's like hitting a wall.
But how do we break through that wall?
Well, sometimes it's about changing our approach. Maybe we need to try a new learning method or focus on a different aspect of the language for a while.
So like if I've been focusing on grammar, maybe I should switch to vocabulary for a bit.
Exactly. Or if you've been mostly reading and listening, maybe you should try speaking more.
That's a good point. It's about shaking things up a bit, keeping our brains engaged and challenged.
Exactly. And you know what? Sometimes the best way to break through a plateau is to simply persevere. Keep practicing, keep learning, and eventually you'll break through.
So it's about trusting the process, even when it feels slow or frustrating.
It is. And you know what? Sometimes the most rewarding moments in language learning come after we've overcome a challenge. Like when you finally master that grammar rule that's been giving you trouble, or when you have a successful conversation with a native English speaker.
Those are definitely moments worth celebrating. And speaking of celebrating, let's talk about the importance of finding joy in the English learning process. Because if it feels like a chore, it's going to be a lot harder to stick with it, right?
Absolutely. Learning English should be enjoyable. If it's not, you're less likely to make it a habit.
So how do we make it fun? How do we find that joy?
Well, one way is to connect with your passions. What are you interested in? What are you curious about?
Like, if I love cooking, I could try reading English language recipes or watching cooking shows in English.
Exactly. Or if you're into history, you could listen to podcasts or watch documentaries about history in English.
So it's about finding ways to integrate English into the things we already love.
Precisely. And that makes it feel less like work and more like, well, fun.
I love that. So it's not just about learning English, it's about learning about the world, about ourselves, and about the things that make us tick.
Exactly. And, when we approach English learning with that kind of curiosity and enthusiasm, it becomes less about achieving a goal and more about embarking on an
An
adventure.
adventure. I like that. So, to all our listeners out there who are on their own English language learning adventures, keep exploring, keep discovering, and keep having fun. The world of English is waiting for you.
It is, and it's filled with amazing people, incredible stories, and endless possibilities.
So, go out there and embrace it, and never stop learning.
Never stop learning.